Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right. Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willies, your host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show. We are going to have a great show for you today. You probably know what the subject of the show has to be today, because again, this one comes close to home, because what occurred in Caracas, Venezuela, it's the same thing that occurred in Panama, Panama City, Panama, Colon City, Panama, Chorrera, Panama. The murder of both soldiers and innocent Panamanians occurred in December of 1989. In the case of Panama, it was indiscriminate. In the case of Panama, there were 10,000 Panamanians murdered. Yes, I know. Wikipedia will tell you 4,000. Yes, I know. The American government will tell you that it was only 1,000. But let me tell you, this stuff brings back memories. This stuff brings back the memory of my father running around our home in Arco Iris, right on the outskirts of Colon City downtown, because those helicopters were roaming overhead and missiles flying out of them into the Guardia Nacional. I remember my father recalling the story of the military going down the streets and a man trying to get across the line to get his wife her insulin. And because they sent people into Panama who couldn't speak Spanish, the guy is telling them, hey, I need to get the insulin to my wife. She doesn't get it, she's gonna die. And he's walking up to them to show them. And they opened up on him and murdered him. This is what imperialism looks like. This is what invasion of a country unnecessarily looks like. We've lived it. I hear a lot of crap on TV right now. I hear a lot of junk on TV. Oh, we're trying to restore democracy and all that BS, which it's all BS. If you really wanted to restore democracy, you would not have had an embargo. If you really wanted to restore democracy, you would not have had sanctions. What you wanted to restore is the coercion of taking these people's oil on what you want, on your terms. That's what this is all about. Taking Venezuela's oil on the oil company's terms. In other words, a sovereign country like Venezuela should have the right to say how to whom they would sell the oil and at what price they'll sell the oil. Market prices, maybe discount prices. They have that choice. They are a sovereign country. They would have you believe that this is some sort of a socialist country. Let me tell you the big thing with Venezuela. The big thing with Venezuela is that oligarchy in Venezuela has always been corrupt, like the oligarchy here in the United States. The only difference is that we are so rich and in such control that the obscene wealth on the top done so much had not yet bothered us, because we were still doing okay. The middle class was still doing okay. But the oligarchy has always been decimating Venezuela. They had some short periods of successes when you had the rich Venezuelans buying homes in Miami based on the fraud that they got from the oil companies that made them a touch above the rest of the community. But at least some of that money trickle down to the Venezuelan population. But as things went on and on and on, and it got worse and worse and worse, as these people enriched themselves, that particular class that controlled the news, that particular class that controls the oil fields, that particular class that controls commerce, as things got better and better for them, it got worse and worse for the population at large. They created that overthrow with Maduro. They created the overthrow with not Maduro, I'm sorry, with Hugo Chavez. When Hugo Chavez came into power, he saved the country. Poverty rates sunk. They were doing so well in Venezuela that he started to export what he was doing to the other countries in Latin America. He talked about creating their own monetary system. He talked about creating their own interchange. He talked about creating the United States of South America. That couldn't happen. America could not possibly let that happen, because to let that happen would have also taught the American people how they have been swindled. Because what Hugo Chavez did, and unfortunately Maduro, yes, is there a lot of corruption in Venezuela? Yes. Is there a lot of corruption in the United States of America? Yes. Is there a lot of corruption in the oil fields and oil companies in the United States? Yes. Is there a lot of corruption in Venezuela? Yes. There's a difference. The corruption in Venezuela that was benefiting the Venezuelans, the Americans could not allow that to happen, because, hey, we got to have our hands in there. We have got to have our hands in there. Are you kidding me? So, but the difference here is this. The oil companies have the power of the United States government to implement sanctions, to blockade your country, to stop medicines from coming into your country. We have the power to make your corruption fatal. The corruption in the United States isn't fatal. Don't you think the prices you're paying for healthcare is corruption? Hell yes. Don't you think the prices you paid when the gas prices went up were corruption? Of course it was. Don't you think the excessive profits these companies are making is corruption? Of course it is. But there is no external force stopping it, so it's okay. But when Venezuela inflicts their corruption, they have the force of the United States to stop it. And now, when they don't oblige by saying those oil fields should be used as the United States says, they create an issue to go in. Oh, it's drugs, my you know what. First of all, if they're how do you invade a country for providing a supply to your people who are drug addicts? I mean, it boggles the mind. You go blow up another country because your country is addicted to a product. You know, a lot of countries are addicted to some products that Americans sell that kills also. It's called guns. Suppose we applied the same rules to our populating the rest of the world, the gorillas around the world, with American made guns. Suppose we did the same thing. You are killing our population, America. In Zimbabwe, your guns are killing people. In Nigeria, your guns are killing people. In Colombia, your guns are killing people. In Mexico, your guns are killing people. Suppose we applied the same notion onto America that they want to apply onto Colombia or Venezuela, for simply giving America a product, right? And exactly, Michael Rodin says a product that we are not even making in Venezuela. Now, America, earlier this morning on my KPFT show, as I was there, I am not defending Maduro. I'm not defending corruption. I'm defending the rule of international law. The rule of international law. Um, a woman called me this morning, and I said I will make my show tomorrow based on what I think her name was Sarah. I'll make my show tomorrow on KPFT based on what Sarah asked. Because it was clear that Sarah was upset, that I was upset because we invaded Venezuela and we kidnapped their president. She thought that was okay. And her question was, why would 8 million Venezuelans leave their country? And by the way, they didn't all come here. They went to Peru, Ecuador, Panama, and all these other places. Why would they leave their country to, if things were all good? And I had to remind her, things are not good at all in Venezuela. They are horrendous in Venezuela. But that horrendicity, or whatever the correct word is not the fault of Venezuela. I mean, if Venezuela had stayed with their corruption, if Venezuela had stayed and done whatever they did, and if Venezuela had let other companies come in to help them keep the oil infrastructure up, they would have been just fine. But we sanctioned, from Obama to Biden to Trump, we sanctioned the holy hell out of these people because our oil companies told us to do it. And of course, they're in trouble because of us. Because of us. They could not. Let me tell you, back in the late 90s, early 2000s, they could not allow Hugo Chavez to be successful. Because if Hugo Chavez was successful, which actually he was for some time, all Americans, a lot of us progressives in America would come back and point out that just like Hugo Chavez stopped the plutocrats, the oligarchs, the wealthy from taking the money from El Pueblo, from taking the money from the people, just like Hugo Chavez did that, so could some liberator here in the United States say, why are the mining fields in Colorado? Why are the mining fields in North Dakota? Why are the mining fields, the oil fields and mining fields and all of these all over the United States on public lands? Why are the spoils of all of these things going towards shareholder value and executive pay? Why isn't it going to the people? Why are they just getting a small royalty for something they didn't invent and put there? You know, the government get a small royalty, and much of that is caught back with things like depletion allowances that allows an oil company to say, "Hey, on the profits that I make, I'm going to take a depletion allowance because the well is being depleted. So I take a deduction on my taxes because the well is depleted. So in effect, the royalties that I pay, I take it right back." People, we're being screwed. And for all of you that have this mantra about Venezuela failing because it's a socialist state, no, Venezuela is not failing because it was a socialist state. It is failing because we caused it to fail. We ensured that it failed. Okay? Now, Cuba, people like to, anytime we're talking about having good policies, good social policies. Oh, you want to be Cuba or Venezuela? You know what we do? We destroy Venezuela, we destroy Cuba. People say, what do you mean? Isn't Castro a communist? Castro wasn't no bona fide communist. When the first country that Castro came to for assistance after they overthrew Batista was the United States of America, who completely rejected him. So the first superpower that rejected him, he went to the second superpower. You see, they wanted laissez-faire capitalism in Cuba, and Castro said, no, we're going to have a social democracy, which is the most sensible form of government, period, if we could ever keep it, because the capitalist countries won't allow these forms of government because The parasites are unable to parasite on you. The parasites, the people who make money from doing absolutely nothing by moving paper and moving bonds, they cannot be there. Castro came here first. And of course, when he was rejected by Washington, he then went to Moscow, Russia. We created that communist Cuba. Cuba would have been a completely different country if we simply had spoken to Castro and worked with Castro. But they were pissed off. The capitalists loved Batista. Let me tell you something about, and I want you, many of you, to see why this is so personal to me. During the times of Batista, when Batista ran Cuba, and you had the people living in Miami and all around, the wealthy all around the country, Havana, Cuba was their playground. They just played around in Havana, Cuba. They just played around. And they had servants and people serving them and playing music for them and singing to them and doing all these things. At those days in Cuba, Cuba has a very mixed population, very large black population. But given that it's so involved with America, the caste system was well, or I shouldn't call it the caste system, but I should call it the racial system, was high and mighty in Cuba. And people who looked like me either swept floors, cleaned rooms, or sang and danced. That's it. I know many of you have heard of all the great Celia Cruz and the great Cuban singers and all of that. Yeah. But again, that's what it was. When Castro came into power, people who looked like me became doctors, lawyers, engineers, and there was no DEI here, baby. Or I should say there was DEI because it was based on diversity, equity, and inclusion. But Castro exported doctors all over the world because, again, it's a very highly educated country. And they exported these doctors to Africa, South America, Central America, and the Caribbean. In fact, if you look at what the lies that they've told in the Lima Convention, they would say like, "Oh, there are a lot of Cubans in Venezuela." Yeah, ask them what they do. They're nurses, they're doctors, they're engineers, because that's what they did. Okay, now I'm going to get into the Venezuela dirty oil in a minute, Pollard, because that's another important reason why we invaded Venezuela, because of their dirty oil. Okay, so folks, going back to Cuba, my Cuban brothers and sisters could not be anything but servants during Batista. Even though if Batista did a DNA, he would realize that he wasn't all what he thought he was. Okay? But now they're lawyers, doctors, engineers, pharmacists, scientists, researchers. That's who they are today. So why should you believe that there is going to be hate from somebody like me towards a Venezuela, towards a Cuba, when it was under those particular systems that these people could thrive? Okay? So we are, I was on Jenna this morning. We decide on Jenna Flanagan on WBAI this morning. And one of the things I pointed out was that it is going to be imperative that we go out there and tell the story and convince those minds who are willing to learn that we cannot buy the mainstream media crap about socialism in Venezuela and all these places. We are the ones responsible for taking these countries down. When they don't do as we want, we take them down. I want to play you what I did with Jenna this morning, and then we'll continue the program.
So we are going to run the country until such time as we can do a safe, prompt, and judicious. As everyone knows, the oil business in Venezuela had a total bust for a long period of time. They were pumping almost nothing by comparison to what they could have been pumping and what could have taken place. We're going to have our very large United States oil companies, the biggest anywhere in the world, go in, spend billions of dollars, fix the badly broken infrastructure, oil infrastructure, and start making money for the country. And we are ready to stage a second and much larger attack if we need to do so.
The coordination, the stealth, the lethality, the precision, the very long arm of American justice, all on full display in the middle of the night. Nicolas Maduro had his chance, just like Iran had their chance, until they didn't and until he didn't. He effed around and he found out. President Trump is deadly serious about stopping the flow of gangs and violence to our country. Deadly serious about stopping the flow of drugs and poison to our people. Deadly serious about getting back the oil that was stolen from us. And deadly serious about reestablishing American deterrence and dominance in the Western Hemisphere.
But I want to be clear about one thing. Nicolas Maduro had multiple opportunities to avoid this. He was provided multiple very, very, very generous offers and chose instead to act like a wild man, chose instead to play around. And the result is what we saw tonight. The other message here is the following. You have a guy, like many people around the world, they like to play games. You have a guy who decides he's going to invite Iran into his country, is going to, do the confiscation of American oil companies, is going to flood our country with gang members, is going to take Americans prisoner and try to hold them for hostage and trade them like he was able to do with the Biden administration. Basically likes to play games all this time and thinks nothing's going to happen. And I hope what people now understand is that we have a president. The 47th president of the United States is not a game player. When he tells you that he's going to do something, when tells you he's going to address a problem, he means it. He actions it. I can tell you, I've watched this process now for 14, 15 years, been around it. Everybody talks. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. When I get there, we're going to do this. We're going to do. This is a president of action. Like, I don't understand yet how they haven't figured this out. And now, if you don't know, now you know.
At 4:21 a.m. East Coast time, as many Americans slept on the first Saturday of the new year, President Trump posted on Truth Social, the United States of America has successfully carried out a large-scale strike against Venezuela and its leader, President Nicolas Maduro, who has been, along with his wife, captured and flown out of the country. This operation was done in conjunction with U.S. law enforcement. 6 hours later, the President, Secretary of Defense, or as his administration refers to him, the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Dan Kane, and Secretary of State Marco Rubio struck a defiant tone, both in their remarks and interactions with reporters. We just heard several clips from that press conference. Maduro and his wife were flown to New York City, where their case will be heard by Judge Alvin Hellerstein, while Maduro's Vice President, Delcy Rodriguez, is left to run the country under the direction of the U.S., an arrangement she initially appeared highly critical of before striking a more conciliatory tone. So here to offer their insight as to what is happening with this strike turn of events is our political panel. Washington, D.C. correspondent and senior editor at Notice, Dave Leventhal, writer at firewalledmedia.com, and an Army veteran of 2 tours in the war in Afghanistan, Laura Jadid, and Egberto Willies, host of KPFT's Politics Done Right. Hello to everyone, and thank you for joining us.
Good morning on a crazy day.
Yes, and incredibly, after, I think, a mind-boggling weekend for a lot of Americans, just period. Well, Egberto, I'm trying not to stammer here, but what now? Basically, how do you see the rest of this playing out?
The rest of this is going to play out dependent on what we do. And when I say what we do, I mean what the masses do. Right now, Donald Trump has all Republicans, for all practical purposes, except a few, on his side. We have a Democratic Party that too often is very timid or scared to go ahead and say what he's actually done was absolutely wrong. I heard all the Democrats on TV yesterday speaking about, yes, Maduro was a bad guy, etc. Let me make something clear. I am not a fan of Maduro. I was a fan of Hugo Chavez, absolutely, because of what he brought as far as making the natural resources of that country go to the people and not to the corporations and the oligarchy. Maduro was just someone holding space and, not necessarily doing a good job. The problems in Venezuela was not caused by Venezuela. The problems in Venezuela was a direct cause of the United States sanctions, quarantines, and taking over of properties. And here in America, most of us believe the line of the mainstream media. It is false. And unless there are people like us out there speaking what the truth really is, what Donald Trump is doing can possibly work. One last thing that it's important for us to understand. This is a complete financial enterprise. Crude oil coming from Venezuela of the sour type is the type that America needs here in the Gulf Coast, here in Texas and other places, because they cannot process the oil we produce here. As they can, but it takes them a retooling, which costs billions. A retooling which costs billions. So,
okay. Finish your point.
Yeah. So in effect, this is financial. We're having issues with Canada. We're having issues with Mexico, the two major sources of sour oil. So what do? We also want Venezuela, who gives sour oil as a backstop to let Mexico and Canada know, hey, guys, if you send your oil elsewhere or whatever, we also have Venezuela.
Interesting. All right. Well, not to move away from this incredibly important story, but I'm sure we'll be following it in the weeks to come. But I do want to pivot locally to New York City. And of course, we know that New York City now has a new mayor, Zohran Mamdani, who was sworn into power over the weekend. And he made it very clear that he was going to be a different kind of mayor, as he stayed long after the event was over, handing out hot chocolate to workers who were breaking down the stage outside City Hall in the bitter cold. And so, Egberto, I want to bring you into the conversation on this subject because you're connecting with us from Texas. And what is your sense of how Mayor Mamdani is being perceived there?
Let me tell you, Mamdani is being perceived everywhere in two diametrically opposed ways. One, he is great, is how the progressives see it here, and he's feared. They want you to believe that they can pull the DSA on him, that put the Democratic Socialists on him and use that as a template. But you see, the problem that they have is that they have a Mamdani who knows how to explain so well. Laura kind of stole my thunder when she brought up the rugged individualism issue. That's why I started to smile, because it's like, once again, she's stolen something that I've wanted to talk about. But there was another concept in his speech where he said, remember what Clinton said, the era of big government is over. That's not my belief. I'm paraphrasing, of course, but he pretty much knocked that statement from Bill Clinton of the 90s and pointed out that, no, we are going to make government useful. And I sat and listened to that speech, Jenna, in complete awe. This 34-year-old man was speaking more profoundly, more intensely than all these other old you-know-what out there trying to hold on to the Democratic mantra. He is the future of the Democratic Party. He is the future of progressives. When I say he, I'm talking about people with that framework, that mentality, and it is up to those on the outside to provide the space for that message to get out there.
All right. Well, I know we're going to have a lot more to watch with that. So we're going to leave it there, but we're going to go deeper into the political backstory of Zohran Mamdani in our next segment. Many thanks to my panel, Washington, D.C. correspondent and senior editor at Notice, Dave Leventhal, writer at firewalledmedia.com, and Army veteran of 2 tours in the war in Afghanistan, Laura Jadid, and Egberto Willis, host of KPFT's Politics Done Right.
Now, the answers from the other panelists, you can get it on the podcast that I always link in the for the specific video here. The first thing I want to handle is something that Don said in the chat. Don said, "Could this all be revenge?" No, it's the one that he said before that. He said, it is that one. Revenge for the nationalization of the oil industry. Let me correct the lie that's out there, including on mainstream media. It was not Hugo Chavez who nationalized Venezuelan oil. Venezuelan oil was nationalized by Carlos Andrés Pérez. And you've heard me speak about him a whole lot of time. And this is because, again, the oil companies were raping Venezuela. And a stopgap measure was the nationalization of the oil field. But if the oil fields are nationalized and these other foreign companies come in and still get more than 50% of these companies, it's still that actually mine the oil. It still means that they can play all kinds of shenanigans and still control a lot of your oil, which is what they were doing. And the poverty level remained. When Hugo Chavez came in was to blow all of that up. What he did is he said, you cannot come into Venezuela and be a greater than majority owner of these companies, etc. And people say, well, that's not freedom. Yes, it is. It's called sovereignty. And it means, look, we've tried it the other way before. And when we had you in control of all these companies, you raped us. You took everything from us. Of course, we're going to change it so that our people would benefit from more natural resources. Venezuela is has the largest deposit of oil. Number 2, they also have the 5th largest supply of gold. You wonder why the United States doesn't want them to be a good democratic socialist state? Because Americans would see it happen and like, oh my God, we have been screwed all our lives. Now, to what brother Bruce Pollard was talking about, the sour oil from Venezuela. The thing about it is this, Bruce. That oil is bad, and it's bad for the environment. But out of that bad oil, you can get so many more products than you can get out of the good oil, right? So what you think the refineries did? The refineries maximize their refineries for sour oil out of Saudi Arabia, sour oil out of out of Venezuela, sour oil out of Mexico, and sour oil out of Canada. But over the time, now that they're messing around with Canada and Mexico, who Mexico has gone into, I believe they just signed a contract or something for a big dock with the Chinese. So they are seeing the future, and the future may be their supply of oil, bad oil, may be limited. So you better go find the next supplier of that bad oil, and that is Venezuela, and you get it for cheap, and you send it to your refineries in Texas, Louisiana, and you make a killing because you're paying small amount of money for the bad oil, but you're getting gasoline, you're getting a diesel, kerosene, but more than that, you're also getting coke, which you sell to iron companies, which you sell to other companies using it to generate heat. It is amazing. But the excess sulfur, go ahead in some of those refineries out on I-10, and you see those mountains of sulfur. Mountains and mountains of sulfur. Cancer Alley, as Don calls it. You're absolutely right. So that is the answer there. Now, earlier, Egberto, the people of Venezuela have not benefited due to dictators. What does dictator mean? Trump is a dictator. Are we benefiting from Trump? Many American presidents have acted like dictators in that they have not done what the people wanted, but what the corporations wanted. So the term dictator and all of this, when you're trying to use it in the fashion that you're using, makes absolutely no sense. Omar Torrijos Herrera was the dictator of Panama. That is how he was labeled by the United States. We had the best times in Panama under Omar Torrijos Herrera. We built hydroelectric dams. The interior of the country was paved. The interior of the country got better farming and all of that from quote unquote the dictator. Please, my brother, lead a beer cat. Speak of what you know. The problem is you listen to American news and you are uninformed as to the different political systems around the world and how they actually do it. Okay? Let's remember that. Let's remember that. All right. I got, and for those who think, oh, somehow things are okay in Venezuela, I played it this morning and I got 13 minutes to play it here again. And that is the interview that I had with an activist out there in Caracas, Venezuela. We did an interview on WBAI, and I have a longer one that I'll link to later on.
Speaking from Venezuela, as far as I understand, Gabriel Aguirre, he's an organizer for World Beyond War. How are the people of Venezuela? Is there enough time passed to see a reaction of the people in Venezuela to what just occurred?
Hi, hello. Thanks for having me. Sorry because my English is work in progress. I will try to speak.
Let me jump in. We do have someone. Egberto has said he would be happy to translate, and we'll do it live. So if you feel you need to go into Spanish, just go into Spanish and give us a moment, and we'll translate.
Okay, wonderful. Edberto, ¿puedes repetirme la pregunta, por favor? Gracias.
Él quiere saber primeramente el pueblo. ¿Cómo está el pueblo en respeto a lo que ha pasado con la invasión de los Estados Unidos?
Mira, en primer lugar, nuestro pueblo está totalmente conmocionado porque nunca antes en la historia republicana de Venezuela se había generado un ataque de este tipo. Es decir, es un ataque militar sin precedentes.
What he's saying is that the people are very emotional right now and concerned because never in the history of Venezuela has a foreign power ever come in with the force and magnitude as the United States has thus far.
Estamos hablando de un ataque militar que se realizó en horas de la madrugada en el país en 3 regiones diferentes, en Caracas, en Miranda y en el estado Vargas, de forma simultánea, por supuesto, generando una gran conmoción en las personas.
He said it wasn't just an attack on Caracas, but in Caracas and 2 other states, and he said it's an emotional hit that the people had never seen before.
Hay personas que han sido objeto de estos ataques y por supuesto están lesionadas, están siendo atendidas en los hospitales, pero es una situación de una gran conmoción en general.
He said there are a lot of people that are actually hurt, injured, and they're headed to the hospital. Déjame hacerte una pregunta. ¿Sabes de venezolanos muertos, ya sea si son militares o ciudadanos?
Aún no ha sido informado oficialmente, ¿ok? Si hay cifras de personas que hayan lamentablemente fallecido producto de estos ataques, pero sí se contabilizan personas que han sido heridas durante el desarrollo de estas acciones.
Okay, what I asked him is if he knows if, other than the military, if there are dead civilians, and he said that has not been noted yet in the news, but he knows that there are in fact a whole lot of people that are injured.
Ha sido un ataque cobarde, ha sido un ataque artero, aprovechándose de las fechas y las festividades que los venezolanos y las venezolanas en paz queríamos disfrutar. Realmente nos encontramos frente a un grave hecho de violación al derecho internacional y a la Carta Democrática de las Naciones Unidas.
He said it's a cowardly act. The United States took advantage, knowing that in how people in Venezuela in this time celebrate, the New Year, etc., and it is something that it's against and entirely the United Nations Charter.
Hay que decirlo. Esto que ha cometido el gobierno de Donald Trump es un acto de guerra contra el pueblo venezolano y contra los pueblos de América Latina.
He said that this is an act of war by Donald Trump and against all of Latin America. Te quiero hacer una pregunta. Donald Trump piensa que él puede entrar en Venezuela, tomar su petróleo, Mi pregunta es, ¿qué pasará con los activos, digamos, los militares de Colombia o los de otros? ¿Entrarán ellos para tratar de hacer que no pueden robar tu petróleo?
Voy a responderte primero mencionando algo que ya decía James. Después de escuchar las declaraciones de Donald Trump sobre la forma como piensan ellos gestionar y administrar Venezuela, estamos completamente sorprendidos y frente a una persona que tiene delirios de ser el rey del mundo y el policía del mundo.
He said that before he answers my question, he wants to say that Donald Trump is delirious into believing that he wants to be king of the world, and that the way that he believes he's going to take care of running Venezuela is just that, delirium. Sí, señor.
Pero esto es muy bueno, Alberto, decírselo a los pueblos del mundo y sobre todo al pueblo estadounidense. Ha quedado claro que las acciones del gobierno y la administración Trump en contra de Venezuela no han sido nunca para restituir la democracia, no ha sido nunca para la defensa de los derechos humanos, no ha sido nunca para la protección del pueblo estadounidense bajo la excusa y la falsa narrativa del crimen transnacional o del crimen contra las drogas. El único objetivo de Estados Unidos que siempre ha perseguido en todas las intervenciones militares en el mundo no ha sido otro sino que apropiarse de los recursos naturales y estratégicos de todas las naciones.
This has never been anything about democracy or the people. It has always been about taking the natural resources of the countries under which we invade. And, we've seen that quite often. Now, lo que quería preguntarte, hay muchas guerrillas, ya sea venezolanos, colombianos, peruanos o lo que sea. ¿Crees que esto va a abrir la puerta para que ellos entran al país para tener una mini guerra en todos lados?
Estados Unidos ha abierto la puerta con esta acción de guerra a que exista un proceso de desestabilización total de la región.
Okay, what I asked him is, did the United States open the door for guerrillas throughout Latin America to come in and be a part of the liberation? I mean, remember, Hugo Chavez started what was known as the Bolivarian Revolution. And what I'm asking is, did Trump, or can we consider Trump someone who likely will really get that all started, albeit not the way it should be? And he says that, in effect, the United States has likely opened that door.
América Latina puede ser el nuevo Medio Oriente del mundo.
Latin America will become, or could become, the next Middle East of the world.
And I would like to go to Gabriel Aguirre and ask him about some of the benefits that the Bolivar Revolution brought to the people of Venezuela.
Gabriel, lo que te quiero...
Gracias por esta pregunta. A ver, mira, Venezuela desde el año 1998 fue uno de los países que logró, a partir del triunfo de las fuerzas populares, atender la inmensa deuda social que existía en nuestro país, principalmente permitiéndole a nuestra gente y a nuestro pueblo acceder a la salud, a la educación, a la vivienda, al derecho a la recreación, al derecho al desarrollo en términos generales.
What he said is that since 1998, under the Bolivarian Revolution that Chavez started, there was a debt owed to society, a social debt owed to society, and that was taken care of. And in fact, poverty and healthcare and all of that got much better during that period, things that had been forgotten for some time. Señor?
Y eso fue justamente por la razón, porque el petróleo, el dinero del petróleo que le pertenece a las y los venezolanos, fue destinado a poder atender esa deuda social. Y allí tiene razón Trump en algo que él dice: mientras él pretende devolver ese petróleo y ese dinero a las compañías y a las corporaciones estadounidenses, nosotros seguimos insistiendo en la necesidad de ser soberanos en el uso de nuestro petróleo y de nuestros vastos recursos estratégicos naturales.
He said that the oil, Trump is right. The oil should be used for the people, not, but oil is going for the corporation. But he said that the oil under the Bolivarian, under Chavez, was used for that social debt that had occurred for decades to take care of its people, which is what it did.
Venezuela tuvo la capacidad de universalizar la educación gratuita y de calidad en todos los niveles durante lo que ha sido los años más recientes. Venezuela acabó con el analfabetismo en el país. Venezuela en el tema de la salud logró tener en cada barrio popular un centro de asistencia y atención médica para nuestros pueblos. Venezuela logró construir 5 millones de viviendas para el pueblo venezolano.
Let me just say that Venezuela had education for people for free, healthcare for free. Not only healthcare in that manner, but in every few blocks, there were places of health for people to go to. You know, some things that we are trying to work on here ourselves, Medicare for all. But I mean, in effect, the resources of the country was being used to solve the social debt to the people. He also mentioned in the first part that I forgot to say that Venezuela must remain sovereign over its own natural resources.
Venezuela logró tener uno de los salarios mínimos más altos de este continente, cerca de $800 aproximadamente mensuales para las personas. Es decir, había una garantía de los derechos económicos, de los derechos sociales y del derecho más importante, que es el derecho al desarrollo.
And Venezuela on the continent, on the South American continent, at one point had the highest wages, not just because it's how it was designed to have higher wages, the minimum wage that we're working for here in the United States. And continúa.
Entonces, todos esos grandes problemas y esas grandes denuncias sociales que hoy el pueblo estadounidense están exigiendo en su país al gobierno de Donald Trump, en Venezuela fuimos capaces de lograr garantizarlos bajo la acción sostenida de la disposición y la apuesta de estos recursos para atender la inmensa deuda social de nuestro país.
Wow, that's big. What he's saying that all what Americans are fighting for now with Trump, the social services, the minimum wage, the health care, that is something that they had attained under the auspices of using their natural resources for the better good of the people.
Y estos derechos fueron pretendidos ser arrancados a partir de las sanciones que fueron aplicadas contra el país desde el año 2014, cuando declararon a Venezuela como una amenaza inusual y extraordinaria para la seguridad nacional y la política exterior de Estados Unidos bajo el gobierno de Barack Obama, cuyo gobierno también tiene grandes responsabilidades en todo lo que ha ocurrido en Venezuela y lo que ocurrió esta madrugada en nuestro país.
He said that specifically the problem started, the failure of Venezuela's economy started because of the sanction imposed by the United States of America. And it's not just Donald Trump. It was the Obama administration, etc. And if I may narrate a bit here, this is a neoliberal modus operandi is what we're looking at here. They could not afford a democratically socialist country to be successful, so it had to be destroyed. Continúa, por favor, señor.
Cierro con esto. Venezuela le han robado 130,000 millones de dólares y hoy el gobierno de Donald Trump pretende seguir robando a nuestro pueblo y robando sus recursos, pretendiendo reconocerse y brindarse los recursos que le pertenecen, insisto, al pueblo venezolano, a las venezolanas y a los venezolanos.
Lastly, he says, I want to tell you that this country was robbed of $130 billion by external forces by taking our resources. That's money out of del pueblo, out of the country proper. Gracias, señor. All right, sorry about that. Um, le- it's crazy. It's crazy. Anyway, let me just tell you, I have um, I have another interview with him that I did. This one, that the other one is about 54 minutes long. I was so impressed with him. I wanted to speak to him again, so we created an interview or set up an interview yesterday, late yesterday, and I already processed that interview. It's on YouTube. But what I'll do is I'll go ahead and prepare it back for on Substack. So you'll see that probably sometime later on today, and you can if get some coffee and sit down and listen to it. It's the same thing where I'm translating back and forth, but again his English is not very good, so it was better for him to speak in English and me translate. Now on another subject here, I wanted to touch on this real quickly because it's going to be a hard job for those of us who understand the Venezuela concept correctly and have to go through the propaganda put out by the mainstream media at being wards of the oil companies and the plutocracy. Because the story that you're hearing on mainstream media, I want to pull my hair. The only kickback that I heard today that made sense was from what is a former congresswoman from Ohio. I'll find her in a little bit. But she finally said, we had no right to do that. Who gives us the right to go into an independent country? Uh, Everybody, including Democrats are so embarrassing the way that they allow Donald Trump to conflate issues. They allow Donald Trump to conflate issue. Uh, Okay, let's see. Egberto, all good, but if you do an interview in Spanish, please include subtitles. Well, I didn't include subtitles because I'm translating the Spanish right back into English for people to not have to have the subtitles. Because remember, this is used as podcast as well. I tell you what, though, if somebody wants to add some subtitles to it, you can. You can add the subtitles to it. But anyway, folks, continuing. Critics see echoes of Iraq as corporate media carries water for unlawful act of war against Venezuela. And it's not only the media, it's the Democrats and everybody else. Because we should not be talking about Maduro being a bad person, because that gives implicit authority to Trump to say, this is something that I did because. Nina Turner, thank you about that, Michael. Nina Turner was the one who went on TV, and you have these three guys with their macho way. Oh yeah, we should go there. What the military guy said? Oh, it was such a perfect operation. We went in there surgically, took it out. They don't care anything about the people that died. They don't care that their act created over 100 dead people. They don't care. They didn't care that their act in Panama created over 10,000 dead Panamanians. They didn't care. And then you have the others talking about how Maduro, if they had just complied with the United States, the invasion would have occurred. Why should they comply with the United States? They're a sovereign country. The oil fields belong to them. And they have inculcated in Americans' mind that it is okay for America to tell other people what to do. Yet, the very first time a foreign country even implies, except if it's Israel, of course, but a foreign country implies that it's telling our president or anybody in government what they should do, it's the end of the world. Of course, if Israel tells us what to do, we just oblige. That's not an act. I mean, you take a look. Donald Trump, we want you to invade Iran. We invaded Iran. Donald Trump, you want us to sell the bombs to decimate and create a genocide in Gaza. We obliged. We obliged. People, we are going to have to stop allowing these people to play with our minds. We're going to have to become independent thinkers. We are going to have to be able to look at all the framing, the facade that these people put out there and go and read right through that facade because it's killing us. And for those we need everybody in the game. We need to get a few of the MAGA folks on our side. Mamdani effectively did that. If only 10% of his vote. But it's going to be important. We have got to decimate. We have got to decimate the mentality that we have currently in America that believes everything that the mainstream media controlled by the plutocracy and corporatocracy says. We are going to have to know how to pick out the truth, because these people want to tell the truth, but they can't always do it. So they have to nudge. And we as independent media, we as independent thinkers have got to know how to do it, have got to be able to relay this message to our brothers and sisters, have got to be able to do this and move forward. Other than that, if we don't do it, we are toast as a country. This is not hyperbole, my brothers and sisters, at all. This is not hyperbole. When you see some of the sycophants in our other chat, you understand the clear and present danger this indoctrination represents. Because we have 3 or 4 guys in our chat that I swear their minds are wired. In software term, we'd call it a deadly embrace. They can't get out from where they are. But anyhow, it's time for me to go. Brother Radnit, I'm sorry I couldn't get to your stuff. I knew it was going to be a long one today, so I didn't even want to get to start in there because you bring some good stuff that I want to keep watching and watching. Bring them, keep bringing them. Please keep bringing them. We aren't always going to be this busy, Brother Radnit, okay? We won't always be this busy. So here is the deal. Keep them. Make sure to keep them, brother. Keep them. I'm talking to you, Rednan. So, folks, please remember, please support us as best you can. The best way to support us is through our becoming a paid subscriber of our newsletter. And how do you do that? You become a paid subscriber to our newsletter by going to, if you're on Substack right now, just click on subscribe and become a paid subscriber. Very, very easy. Now go ahead and go to politicsandright.com/newsletter, politicsandright.com/newsletter, and choose to become a paid subscriber. If you are independently wealthy, you may even become a one of our founding members. Consider being that as well. But we need your support. Look, we also, if you want to see all the places that we are, that we put our stuff at, you can also go to politicsandright.com. Where is the one? I think I have it somewhere in the list here. Well, maybe not. Maybe not. I'll put that up tomorrow. But anyhow, please go ahead and support us at politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. Or if you're already here on Substack, just go ahead and subscribe and say, yes, I want to support the truth. I want to be informed. Egberto check FB, copy of my last comment. I won't be here tomorrow. Doctor's the phone. Well, I hope you're okay, Brother Rednan. I hope you're okay. Anyway, I'm 3 minutes overdue. I want to thank all of you guys for being here. Please share, listen. If you didn't see it from the start, re-listen. If you have questions, you can always write me directly at info@politicsdoneright.com. If you disagree with me, write me directly. I believe that we move forward by handling disagreements civilly. And that's great. Anyhow, my name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. And you guys know how I end this, baby. I am what? Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is politics done right.